One thing that I noticed with a lot of these situations is that these kids end up being abandoned by their parents in some shape, form, or fashion, and they end up in the hands of somebody else. These people that they end up in the hands of end up abusing these kids. So here's my thing. Even though this is a failure on the person that was supposed to be caring for this kid, huge failure, that cannot be excused. But I'm a firm believer that these kids should not end up in these situations because of what the biological mother and biological fathers end up allowing these children to fall through their parenting hands into somebody else who did not give a damn about these kids. That's my take on this story. Let me give you guys the fair usage and then we'll get into the details and tell you a bit about that kid. Some viewers may find the following content offensive and controversial. The information in this video comes from multiple sources, including court records, official police charges, news web articles, and interviews. This video commentary also contains my personal opinions about the facts of this story. The point is to use this story as a cautionary tale in hopes of preventing tragedies like these to children going forward. Viewer discretion is advised. That is your official disclaimer. So I'm actually using Yahoo, so shout out to Yahoo. We don't talk about Yahoo enough. But yahoo.com, this is coming out of Las Vegas. A Las Vegas woman, the woman that you guys just saw on the screen, pled guilty to killing a boy in one of the worst child abuse cases in the state of Nevada, and we have done some bad stories out of there. Crystal Stevens, who's 48 years old, let me get her face back up on the screen, beautiful little kid. This is Crystal Stevens, 48 years old, this stupid broad here, pled guilty to first-degree murder, which would mean that is premeditated. First-degree kidnapping resulting in substantial bodily harm and child abuse, according to a plea agreement obtained by 8 News Now investigations. Stephen agreed to a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole, and she will no longer face the death penalty for what she did. Let me warn you guys, to give a disclaimer. The following content may contain material or information that may be harmful or traumatizing to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised because I'm going to give y'all some details about what she did to this kid. Just know that some of it was sexual in nature, okay? Some of it was sexual. Stevens killed 4-year-old Brandon Steckler in 2018. The child had numerous bruises and burn marks all over his body. This boy had numerous bruises and burns to his body and 27 rib fractures. Keep in mind, he's 4 years old. He's a little tiny baby. According to Clark County prosecutors, Brandon Steckler, the 4-year-old boy, has suffered from malnutrition, sepsis, and pneumonia, and had a methamphetamine in his system. He had meth in his system. So this woman is a meth billy. She's a meth head. The autopsy took an extended length of time due to the extensive injuries. A medical examiner testified that pretty much every inch of Brandon Steckler's body had some type of injury. This baby is 4 and was 4 years old. And that's according to grand jury transcripts. Stevens had called 911 claiming that Brandon Steckler had drowned. Let me guess. What y'all think? Y'all think she said he drowned in a bathtub on his own? He slipped and fell in a bathtub? Not another bathtub story. Please, not another bathtub story. A couple weeks prior, Steckler's mother had asked Stevens to care for Steckler while she was in a shelter, according to an arrest report. The mother, the biological mother, said Stevens refused to return the child. That's the mother. That's the biological mother from my understanding. That's the picture that I found. So if it's wrong, I'll blur it out, but I think that's the biological mother. Steckler's loved ones told the news that he had autism and his nickname was Tuku, Tuku, which is an abbreviation of too cool, which is Toocool or Tookoool, whatever, too cool. A grand jury indicted Stevens for 27 charges, including murder and sexual assault. The reason, even though this story is an older story, we're talking about this now because it's taken this long to finally start to get some justice, to finally get a sentence. Do y'all see how long this takes? Almost 6 years. It's taken this long. Let me repeat that again. Murder and sexual assault. That would make her a pedophile. A MFing pedophile. The remaining charges were dropped as a result of the plea deal. The news were previously learned that there were warning signs about both Steckler's well-being and Stevens. According to State Child Welfare Report, Child Protective Services had been contacted 5 times about Steckler and or his family. The report stated that CPS investigated once and found allegations to be unsubstantiated. But you got a dead kid and a kid that was sexually assaulted, but it's not substantiated. The report also stated that CPS was contacted 4 times about Stevens. 2 investigators took place and allegations were found to be unsubstantiated. The news had repeatedly asked Stevens for an interview and she declined. I really don't know what's the freaking purpose of CPS with these type of situations. If you go and investigate and you don't check, you don't do your due diligence, and then you say it's unsubstantiated, then you look up and you have a dead kid. There was clearly a reason for the call. Somebody saw something and said something, reported it. It was your goddamn job to go investigate, and you didn't, and you failed yet again. Ultimately, is the failure on CPS? If you ask me, I say no. I say the failure is still on the biological mother for ending up in this situation, and I blame it on the biological father for not being attached to his child. It ended up in the hands of a pedophile. How about that? You got friends that are pedophile. Friends. How many of us have them? Friends. Ones you can depend on. Friends. Ain't that some shit?
Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107.
It's a strange thing, man. With friends like this, who in the world needs enemies? If y'all are watching this, do me a favor and make this story go viral. Share the hell out of this story and make this go viral. Hit that thumbs up and leave a comment. Here we go. Let's get it.
A prosecutor is calling an alleged child murder case one of the worst she has seen in 10 years.
The I-Team first broke this story Tuesday, and today the woman facing a murder charge in connection with the death of a 4-year-old boy appeared in court. Thanks for joining us tonight at 6. I'm Christiane Klein.
And I'm Denise Valdez. The I-Team's Vanessa Murphy is here with more about that victim tonight.
Yeah, and family members are obviously just heartbroken. They tell me the 4-year-old boy's name is Brandon Steckler Jr., and he was autistic. His nickname was Tuku for King Too Cool. This evening, there are still many questions surrounding his death and what is now a murder case. Here are photos of 4-year-old Brandon. The child's father tells me he doesn't know the suspect, 42-year-old Crystal Stevens, nor why she was with the child. He also tells me he and the child's mother father are estranged. The father describes Brandon as a kindred soul with love and innocence who touched everyone he came in contact with. A family friend read a statement for us on the father's behalf because he's just so distraught, and she talked with us. The group of veterans who are friends with the father is asking for prayers of support and for anyone with information to come forward.
Justice needs to be served here, and little Brandon and Tuku's name, didn't die in vain. I won't let that, this is terrible. I won't ever let that little boy's name be forgotten.
42-year-old Crystal Stevens remains in the Clark County Detention Center without bail. Metro Police says it received a call Monday morning about a child drowning at an apartment on East Silverado Ranch near Bermuda, but when they showed up, they found no signs of drowning at all. Brandon was taken to the hospital, though, because of his serious injuries. Stevens, seen in court here this morning, was arrested for child abuse, but shortly after, Brandon passed away, and Stevens now faces a murder charge.
The autopsy in this case took almost 8 hours due to the horrific injuries to this child. In the 10 years I've been doing child cases, this is probably one of the worst I've ever seen.
To help put that into perspective, an autopsy usually takes from 2 to 4 hours, not 8 hours. Now, family friends are now trying to raise money to bury the child. We'll have more information on our website at Las Vegas.
She was supposed to be babysitting a child, but today she admits to killing him. Thanks for joining us at 5. I'm Denise Valdez.
And I'm Brian Loftus. This is one of the worst cases of child abuse our state has ever seen, and it's one 8 News Now investigator Vanessa Murphy has been closely following. Here she is with the latest, and we do want to warn you first. This story is of a very sensitive nature.
Crystal Stevens admits to killing 4-year-old Brandon Steckler. This is part of a plea deal. What this means, she will spend the rest of her life in prison, but she no longer faces the death penalty.
I won't ever let that little boy's name be forgotten.
Brandon Steckler Jr. was just 4 years old when Crystal Stevens tortured and murdered him in 2018.
Justice needs to be served here.
This was a friend of the child's father speaking with us, while he said he was too heartbroken for words. Loved ones told us Brandon had autism. They called him Tuku, nickname for Too Cool. As we uncovered more details about this case, we learned more about the horror Brandon experienced at the hands of Stevens.
In the 10 years I've been doing child cases, this is probably one of the worst I've ever seen.
Jacqueline Bluth, now a judge, was prosecuting the case after Metro Police arrested Stevens. Detectives said she was supposed to be caring for Brandon after his mother, who was in a shelter, asked her to. The mom said Stevens then refused to return Brandon. A couple of weeks later, Stevens called 911 from the Silverado Ranch apartment, claiming Brandon drowned, which was a lie. Authorities discovered excessive burning and bruising to Brandon's body and 27 rib fractures. They say he also had methamphetamine in his system, injuries consistent with sexual assault, and he was suffering from malnutrition, pneumonia, and sepsis. A grand jury indicted Stevens for 27 charges. According to this February 19th agreement we obtained, she pleaded guilty to 3 charges, including murder, first-degree kidnapping, and child abuse. She agrees to a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. A judge will officially sentence her on May 7th.
This is one of those cases where you have to wonder what goes through somebody's mind that would cause them to inflict these kinds of injuries on a defenseless child?
And that's the big question here. Why? We've repeatedly asked Stevens for an interview here in jail. She keeps saying no. We'll see if she offers any type of explanation and apologizes at her sentencing. Reporting in downtown Las Vegas, Vanessa Murphy, 8 News Now.
Vanessa, thank you. Now, the 8 News Now.
I guess I just don't understand, what goes through the mind of pedophiles. I mean, I know that y'all have seen like the rise of a lot of these pedophiles since they started, the previous administration of our country was just letting criminals into our country unvetted, and they were coming down here and just doing a lot of horrendous things to kids. I'll say that without giving too many details. Y'all know the stories, but I just stopped asking, why do people with these sick mentalities do this to children who can't speak for themselves nor defend themselves? It just needs to be punished. And people like this do not deserve to be breathing air on our earth atmosphere anymore. This woman should have been put to death. Period. For her to be able to get off and like she shouldn't have had any say so to agree to a plea deal, but I know that's her right to do that legally. But people like this shouldn't exist in our world anymore. To that little boy, let me see if I can get his picture up here by himself. One of his more healthier pictures, like this one. Tuku, young prince, R.I.P. But y'all, let me know what you guys think about the story in the comments section. It's sad, but we have to share these stories because people act like this stuff don't exist. Stop sharing all of these things about celebrity news. Let's start making some real things that actually matter go viral. Like these stories. Thank you so much.